Canada has condemned the Chinese court's decision to uphold the death sentence of a Canadian national convicted of drug trafficking. Robert Schellenberg was given a 15-year jail term in 2018, but he was resentenced to death 2 months later after top Chinese tech executive Meng Wanzhou was arrested in Canada in relation to charges in the U.S. Canada's ambassador to China says it is no coincidence this verdict is out while Meng's extradition trial is ongoing. Katrina Yu has more from Beijing.
He can appeal one last time to China's highest court, that's the People's Supreme Court, but it's very unlikely that he'll be able to reverse this death sentence. In China, 99% of all criminal cases are found guilty, and Beijing has a notoriously hard stance when it comes to any drug-related crime. But there is a very important political dimension to all this as well. China and Canada, their bilateral relationship has reached an all-time low. And it was worsened earlier this year when the Canadian government described the treatment of the Muslim Uyghur population in Xinjiang as genocide by the Chinese government. Now, of course, the main sticking point, the main point of contention between Beijing and Ottawa is the arrest of Chinese Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou. She was arrested in December 2018 and she's currently facing court in Canada fighting extradition to the US. Now, Beijing denies that these cases are linked, but the Canadian government has described Schellenberg's death sentence as arbitrary, and it's really important to look here at the timing as well. Schellenberg was arrested first in 2014, but in 2018 he was initially sentenced to 15 years in prison. But shortly after Meng Wanzhou's arrest, he was hurriedly retrialed, and then we saw the subsequent change in his sentence to execution.
Well, Michael Bociurkiw is a global affairs analyst joining us now from Sydney in Canada via Skype. Thanks very much for being with us. So, first of all, let me just ask you, broadly speaking, what do you make of this standoff, as it seems at this point, between Canada in China, and are these three Canadians, Mr. Schellenberg and the two other Canadians who are being held at the moment and are about to go on trial, are they essentially political pawns in a larger game here?
Sure. Thanks for having me. Yeah, this is nothing less than hostage-taking diplomacy, something Beijing has become famous for over the years. Look, for a sentence to go from, as your correspondent pointed out, 15 years to the death sentence is quite incredible, and especially the timing, because right now, across the water from me actually here, excuse me, British Columbia, Meng Wanzhou, from the powerhouse family of Huawei, is about to be and is in the final stages of being tried for U.S. extradition. So we've had the case of Mr. Schellenberg just now, and soon, probably this week, the sentencing of Michael Spavor, who was accused of espionage, and then probably shortly after that, Michael Kovrig. Look, by the time the Beijing Winter Olympics happened, these two Michaels will have been in prison for 3 years. That's a long time, and it's affected relations between Canada and China.
Now, the Chinese, they've not said it explicitly, but they have suggested that there is an out for Canada here if they release Ms. Wang to the Chinese. But the Canadian government has said that that is simply out of the question at this point. So, given that they've ruled that out, what leverage does Canada have left then to resolve this?
Sure. Well, the only leverage Canada had was when Meng Wanzhou walked through Vancouver Airport, and she was arrested on a U.S. warrant. I would say the Canadians should have looked the other way. It's happened before, but I think the only leverage left is to follow through with Canada's commitments with extradition. But also, you know, as I mentioned, the Beijing Winter Olympics are coming up, and Canada could play hardball just as China is playing hardball. How? By boycotting the Olympics, because it's very dangerous for Canadians to go to China right now. We know that. And to send athletes there would also be dangerous, I think, for them. One more thing, if I can mention, in a recent poll, 77% of Canadians said that warming of relations between China and Canada depends on the outcome of the cases of the two Michaels.
You say that that the Canadian athletes might be in danger there if they went to Beijing. Why'd you say that?
Well, look at the last this just concluded Summer Olympics. There was an element of politics there, of people making athletes making a stance on the podium. We had the case of the Belarusian athlete, for instance. So I think this has now become an element of Olympic Games, and there are many issues when it comes to China that are well known, especially the treatment of the Muslim minority. So it would be very expected, I think, for athletes to make some kind of stance there. If I could just add, the other kind of factor here that isn't much talked about concerning the timing of these sentences is we're on the eve of a possible federal election in Canada. And the way China plays its diplomacy games is to put Western leaders in a tough spot. So if these three Canadians are sentenced in the next few days to the maximum, it wouldn't probably play well in the hands of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who's trying to retake his majority. So that's the way they play, and Canadian politicians have to be a lot more hardball and savvy to put up with this.
Good to get your perspective on this, Michael Bociurkiw. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
The United Nations has held a briefing on 2 Myanmar nationals who've been arrested on charges of plotting to kill Myanmar's UN ambassador.